Hey everybody, Kevin Purcell with the Theotek Podcast this morning, and we are here with episode number 27. We're going to be talking about two different things today. One of them is an app that helps keep men accountable, and the second thing that we're going to discuss is Olive Tree's new Android app. We're actually going to go in reverse order of that. We're going to start off with Olive Tree. Of course, we've got our usuals minus Wes, Rick and Antoine. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning. Great.
And then in LaRosa, those of you who've been watching us for a long time will remember LaRosa used to be with us every week for the first few podcasts, but being on the West Coast and when we changed to the Friday morning time, he wasn't able to stick with it, which, you know, I can understand since that's 6 a.m. out where he is. But we're glad that he has dragged himself out of bed to show off Olive Tree Bible Software's Android update, which, you know, I think just a couple of weeks ago, weren't you with us just recently, when
Bible Tech
was going on, and I made the comment that it was just, the Android app was just unusable, and you were kind of smirking, I think, probably, if I would go back and watch that, thinking he has no idea what's coming. And anyway, so it is exciting that it's out, and so LaRosa, tell us about the new version and what's going on with this update.
Yeah, so we released a new version of our Android app. I think it was it was just this Monday that we released it. And I was actually writing some blog posts about it because I was doing some marketing to help us announce the product and everything, and realized that it had been since, I guess, March of last year since we had done any kind of update whatsoever to our app. And people were just kind of wondering, okay, have we just completely dismissed Android because we came out with this new version for iOS and came out with this whole new system and everything? So what we've actually been doing for the past 2 years now is rewriting our Android app from the ground up. So that's part of the reason for the silence, is we've just been working really hard on that. And then, kind of like Kevin found out in one of his Google Plus posts last night, we actually lost one of our really good Android developers to Google at the tail end of the process. So that was that was a blow, and then trying to find someone to replace him, that kind of slowed down development a little bit. But yeah, it's been 2 years of us working on this app and rewriting it from the ground up so that we can do a lot of new stuff as far as file formats. And in the process, instead of just giving you stuff on the back end and some new features, we also decided to give the app a facelift and give it a little more material design as far as the flat icons and the brighter color and everything else. So we've really gone in and done a whole lot and brought more feature parity to the app as far as users being able to switch between iOS, Android, and we actually have a Windows update that's in beta right now, so we'll actually have a Windows update here pretty soon as well.
Well, cool. I'm over here at your website looking at. I was hoping we might get some. There we go. Some screenshots so people can see. Are these screenshots of the new app?
Yes, that's the new app.
Okay. I guess it just maybe looks different on whatever this device is, but somebody's. Anyway, that is as someone who was using it ever since I made my comment, LaRosa got me in on the beta of it. I used to be a long time ago. I don't know why I wasn't again, but this is it's a beautiful new app, for one thing. I'll commend the developers. We're accidentally looking at our other guest, Dee, there. Anyway, here we go. It's a beautiful new app. I'll commend the developers. They've really done the material design nicely, and that was the first thing I noticed was, whoa, okay, it's a stark difference. It looks so much better than the old-fashioned, what was it? It was sort of styled in the, like, jelly bean days or something like that?
Actually more like gingerbread.
Gingerbread, yeah, way back. So
yeah, it was really funny, too, like in the office, the day they switched to the green and showed us a build of it, we were like, wait, what did you do to our app? Everybody freaked out, but then we all used it for like a day or two. It was like, wait, this green really works. It's much better than the gray we had.
And even just simple things like the font that you added. Was it a newly developed font? Excuse me, or one that you got somewhere, or what? How did this?
It's actually Adobe Source Sans Pro that
Okay.
we're using now as our default font.
And it just looks pretty. I mean, I know that sounds strange. That a lot of people don't understand when folks get kind of gaga over fonts, but really, what you're looking at the most is the text, and so it better looked really nice. And so, the one you picked, I think, was a good choice myself. I really like it compared to
very readable.
Yeah.
One of the things we found out too with Android is that on iOS there are a whole lot more fonts to choose from that just come installed by default with iOS. Like a lot of our users, like on iOS, our default font is Times New Roman, which is a great font that works for English, Hebrew, Greek, but we don't have that font in Android, so we had to find something comparable that didn't require us to go out and spend a whole lot of money just licensing fonts, because that's something that we just don't have in the budget, and we wanted to still find something that was readable and good for our users.
Yeah, and why reinvent the wheel, right?
Right.
If someone else has something that's useful and attractive. What else has this update, aside from the material design and the new, beautiful, modern-looking interface, which are big things in my opinion? What else has the new update brought?
Two things in particular. The first one is just the new file format. We've gone from using old Palm database files, and we're now using an EPUB standard that we built off of. And so that allows us to do a lot more with the text, because just with the Palm database, there's only so much you can really do with that. So now we can actually do an HTML-style layout, which allows us to do things like the Gospel harmonies, the interlinear Bibles, and things like that. And then also, one feature that our Android users have just been clamoring for forever is word-based highlighting. Because in Android, all you could do was you could highlight Bible verses, but it was either the whole Bible verse or nothing, and you couldn't highlight in your commentaries or anything else. But you could do it on Mac, Windows, iOS. So now our users have the ability to do that on Android, which is going to be really good for them.
Yeah, that seems like a minor thing, but if you read a lot of non-Bible books, that was a big deal, because you have that highlighting there as well. And then sometimes you have a long passage and you don't want to highlight it, the entire verse. There's just a phrase in it or something that you wanted to get. It might be a minor deal, but it's still, in my opinion, a nice update. And it really just kind of brings it in line with the iPad version, right? You've had this new file format in the iPad version of Olive Tree for how long? Maybe a year?
Since last year.
Yeah, it's been about a year. So it's kind of catch-up, but it's really nice tasting catch-up, in my opinion.
Yeah, and especially for my department, because we're the ones that make all the books. And so up until, I guess, the early part of this year, we were actually making files in two different formats. We were making it in the old format, so they would still work with Android, Windows desktop, and making the new format for everything that we knew that was coming down the pipeline. So it was double work for us, and now we can kind of cut down our workflow and not having to really worry about supporting the older file format anymore.
And so they made this update just for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not quite. But yeah, it is nice. There's somewhere, I thought you had a post that talked about all the new books that are, that's why I was looking at the Olive Tree blog, but there's somewhere I saw where you said now 1,000 books are now available to Android.
Yeah, it's probably the third one on that page.
Look inside.
The one right after the coming soon video.
So this one? Oh, okay. That's just the post that talks about all the different new features.
The one below that one, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, I actually, now that I think about it, I might have seen it on Facebook or something that someone said that. Whoever, is that you or someone else that does the Facebook posts for?
Yeah, there it is. The Bible Plus 6 update for Android. It's in that post.
Okay. New look, new titles. That's it right there. But no, I thought I saw a listing somewhere. But anyway, yeah, Tyndale commentaries, BHS with Critical Apparatus, Reformation Study Bible, including interlinear Bibles. Yeah, that ESV interlinear Bible is something I don't own. That as soon as I can, that's one of the things I plan to pick up. Is that what this is showing right here? Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
And it's remind me, as I was writing my article, I've got a Christian Computing Magazine article coming out soon, and it was talking about, I was reading something about this interlinear, and it was saying if you tap on the Strong's number, you still get the Strong's definition, but if you tap on the Greek word, doesn't that take you to a different dictionary than just Strong's?
Yeah, if you tap on the Greek word, it actually gives you the parsing data.
Okay, that's what it was. So you get a little bit better Greek original language study on Android now as a result of this. Am I right? Or has that always been there? Okay. All right, well, cool. Anything else that you want to highlight about that?
Really, those are the main things. Just the new look, all the new titles, and along with the new titles, not just those new resources, but we've also brought in a lot of ebooks, kind of like what Logos has with Verso and all those different ebooks that they were able to bring into their platform. Having this update allows us to do the same thing with our Android app, and so we've just brought in a bunch of new Crossway, Thomas Nelson, and a lot of other publishers just bringing in their ebooks into our platform, and this new update has allowed us to do that.
This kind of makes it look strange on screen here because it's in wide format when you make it bigger, but this wrapping text around an image, that's another thing the new format allows, doesn't it?
Yeah, because now that we're able to write all of our code in HTML, it allows us to do all that instead of just the limitations of what Palm did.
And again, that's something that if people are longtime Olive Tree iOS users, you're saying, well, haven't we been able to do that forever? And yeah, on iOS you could, but on Android it's just now possible. And one of the things I had a conversation with your co-worker David Trotz. What's his position over there? Is he the big hoss now in charge?
He is the head of the development department, so he's the head of all the programmers.
Well, and he talked about how you've got a lot more coming this year, and that was, he obviously didn't reveal anything to me, but that's exciting that you're not just, okay, we got Android caught up, so let's go back to iOS and focus on what we really love. Although that's the way it feels for us Android users sometimes, but it sounds like you're not going to do that. You're going to try to maybe keep them in line together.
Yeah, that's the idea now. Now that we have more feature parity between the two, the idea is to kind of keep the two in line with one another. That's
good. I am an iOS user as well. I've got an iPad and an iPhone as well, but if I've got both of those devices are sitting on a desk, I'm picking up my Nexus or my Samsung first over my iPhone or my iPad. That's just who I am. Unless I want to play a game, then I go to the iPad. But I don't do a lot of gaming on it. So, any of you guys got questions about this?
Yeah. It just is, I guess, kind of a shop question, LaRosa. What's your thoughts as to iOS versus Android with with Android now having such a larger share? And I'm not talking about necessarily Olive Tree specifically, but why in general do you think that sometimes the Android version lags behind? I mean, we even have the same thing with Accordance. We've got our iOS version, the Android version is in the works, but what's your thoughts about the two different platforms and why iOS still seems to be a bit preferred even though you've got more Android users now?
I think the main thing is just perspective that people have, that they just assume that because iOS users are willing to spend $500-$600 up to $1,000 for a device, and that they buy more expensive apps, that they're just going to be more willing to pay for stuff in the App Store and do in-app purchases and things like that. So, which, I mean, in all honesty, if you look at where our revenue comes from, the majority of our revenue comes from iOS users. So if that's where our money's coming from, then that's where we're going to focus.
Yeah.
But the nice thing, though, is we've actually seen, since this Android release, we've seen an increase in sales in the Google Play Store, which has been good. So that's showing us that if we do give Android some attention, that people will spend money there as well.
I think you were dealing with possibly, I don't know, you would know better than I would, but I think you were dealing with possibly dealing with the situation of, for the last year and a half or so, the Android app has kind of been so far behind that honestly I wasn't willing to spend any Olive Tree money because my thought was, well, they don't care about me, so I'm not going to give them money. I'm going to put that money in another app that, is actively developing for Android. If that changes, I think that you might see a lot better revenue on the Android side. So I guess it was kind of a self-perpetuating.
That's very true, because we had that problem when I was at Word Search, where we just had customers flat out tell us, I'm not going to spend money with you anymore until you give me a mobile platform. So until they came out with a mobile platform, they were losing revenue and just getting to the point where, okay, customers aren't spending money with us. What are we going to do? Give them what they want. Give them what they're asking for.
That's actually, I had the same feeling, and I still feel that way because I think their mobile platform still is far behind. I think their desktop app is one of the best. Of the Windows apps, I'd put it in the top 5 easily. But anyway, anything else? Any other questions, guys, about Olive Tree Bible on Bible Reader?
It looks really good. Congratulations.
And just for public consumption, when do you think we see the Android Wear app?
We'll probably actually talk about it today in the office, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're at least going to talk about it. I'm joking because LaRosa and David Trotz and I and one or two others in the Google Plus Bible Reader beta community, that's a mouthful, had a conversation very, very late at night last night. For you guys it wasn't that late, but for me it was almost 1 o'clock in the morning. And I asked the question, when do we see Android Wear? And the answer was basically, nah, not going to happen anytime soon, so don't hold your breath, which I was a little disappointed about. But with the light of day this morning, I feel maybe like I was sort of being the greedy Gus. I just got this beautiful update for Android on what, to be honest with you, used to be my favorite Bible app for mobile, the Olive Tree app. And then my first question is, when do I get more? But I tell the guys when you have your conversation, tell them as a longtime user of Olive Tree who started on a Palm device years and years ago and then went to Pocket PC and then finally iOS and now I'm on Android, that thank you for this update. I'm very pleased with it, and it has me actually looking at your store at books that I'd like to have, the bare minimum collection so that I can do some serious Bible study. And I really look forward to seeing that Windows beta and a Mac beta as well, because I think that those two platforms could use some love. But although I think you've got I think they're pretty good right now. But
yeah, actually Windows is currently in beta.
Yeah, well, if I can get a hold of it, I'd love to.
Check the Google Plus forums because there's actually a post in there about that.
Is there? That. Okay, I hadn't seen it. Well, we have another guest with us this morning. You've seen our new face that you haven't seen before down there. Dee Lanier is from has an app called Uncommen. Is that how you pronounce that, Dee? You're muted.
Yeah.
Tell us about your app and tell us what it is, and give us a little introduction of yourself.
Sure. I wanted to give a shout out to LaRosa as well. I think we've had a little bit of interaction on Google Plus, and similar to you, Kevin, just a long time Olive Tree user. Have a library that's pretty massive from back in the Palm days, and welcome the updates. So yeah, my name is Dee Lanier. I'm the executive director of Uncommen, and we are a mission, a cause organization, and we happen to also have an app that helps supplement the need, the goal of getting guys winning as leaders, husbands, and dads. And it's spelled funny. It's spelled in an uncommon way, so it's Uncommen is how it's correctly spelled. apologize a little bit in advance. I'm in a coffee shop. This is where I have some meetings, and I had a meeting earlier. But part of being,
Man, you're not
I
the
love
first one to do this in a coffee shop.
Well, Antoine, I'm going to let you sort of take over this portion of the thing in the interview process here, and,
Sure.
and I just would like to tell us more about the app and what it does and why you did it and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely, D, go for it.
Sure. Well, as we look at, I was just having this conversation earlier today. We consider that if we put labels on youth based on risk factors, we will call youth oftentimes at-risk youth. It's not because inherently they have done anything wrong. It's because of all the different factors that surround them. That typically, if you look at factors such as race and poverty, and then you look at everything else, they may be at risk in comparison to another demographic for failure versus success. I think similarly, we could put labels, if we agreed to do that, which I don't necessarily think we always should, but if we were to put a label on men between the ages of 30 and 45, we could similarly say that they are at risk. And we look at factors such as divorce rate, such as likelihood of adultery. We look at the ramifications of fatherless homes. And so if dad is out of the picture, then what are all of the reverberations that happen from there? We see that we got an epidemic on our hands. Men not being present in their families have devastating effects on our society. And so we want to do everything that we can as an organization to not only prop up this cause, but get as many people involved as possible in targeting this problem. And so we are aiming at men between the ages of 30 and 45, but we are asking for every participant possible to help in this. And so we're trying to gain the applause of children, spouses, of the faith-based community, of everyone, to engage in helping men win as leaders, husbands, and dads. And yes, we also have an app for that.
Indeed. So answer this, because I mean, you and I have talked for a number of months now, and I'm sold. It's easy to sell me on a whole lot of things, but I'm totally sold always on the idea of men being challenged to move forward, to take active steps forward. And we've used the analogy before, having a Paul, having a Barnabas, and having a Silas. Your Pauls are your teachers, the people you look up to. Your Barnabas are your best friends, and the Silases are the guys that you mentor. And our communities are very much filled with this idea of discipleship and mentoring, but Uncommen seems to go that next step of asking for or wanting us to do, to challenge one another, is asking us to be more Barnabases, is asking for more Barnabases. How did Uncommen get to that point, and why does the app kind of make sense as one of those areas to draw to that cause?
Sure. Well, one thing I can just tell you, just by way of story, is when I was first approached to become the executive director of Uncommen, it was through a challenge. I received an email from a friend. He said, "This is our mission. This is our cause. We're looking for an executive director. I think that you should look at the job description. Tell me if there are other people that you think would qualify. P.S. I think you should apply." And that was a challenge. That was a direct face-to-face challenge from a relationship that matters. It wasn't from monster.com. It wasn't from, some spam email. "Hello, Dee. We have browsed online and saw that," this was from a friend. And a friend said, "I know you, and I think that this is something that would be a good fit for you," much like how our relationship, was formed, and much how many relationships are formed within men. It's an introduction through a relationship that already matters, and then a challenge to do something. I think you should meet. I think you should talk about this. I think that whatever that thing is. And so people have influence, and the impression of a friend is very significant. I'm much more likely to take serious the words of a friend than the words of some counselor or some speaker or someone who is removed from me. Somebody who can pull my card, somebody who knows me, somebody who knows my tendencies, who knows my history, and knows what I like, the things that I don't like. Also can give me grace in the ways that he knows that I miscommunicate or didn't mean to do something. So it's in that relational context with me that challenges are best received. And things that, when I say challenges, things that aren't easily obtained. And so an app.
So then yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Yeah,
so our
how's that?
app really has gravitated into being able to not only issue challenges and accept them, but more importantly, to keep score. We would call this, in the Christian context, accountability. We would call the trash talk features of our app, we would call that sharing, or being transparent. The app itself is literally to be, it's to be a catalyst for one-on-one communication and conversation. So if somebody is knocking out of the park, if they are taking on challenges to love their wife better, then I'm going to pick up the phone like I did the other day and call up my buddy and say, what happened? What's going on? Out of nowhere, I've seen that you've been stepping it up. What prompted that? And he told me. Similarly, if I'm slacking on doing challenges, it's more than just the challenges. It's because the challenges are categorically, you can lead, you can love, you can dad. I'm going to be questioned around those things. I've opened that up. I've invited these deeper conversations because this is the context in which we're playing.
Dee, how does Uncommon fit? Many churches have men's groups or discipleship groups or mentoring groups, but how does Uncommon fit with that? Is it an add-on? Is it a replacement? Because and we've talked with different folks together, and I know I've talked separately where folks have said, man, I love the idea of Uncommon, but it feels like another layer, and there's only so much time in the day, only so many services, if you will, you can add to your life. So how does Uncommon fit within those constructs?
Yeah, so that conversation that I just hinted at, it was a pastor friend, Brian Duncan. I asked him, I said, hey, Brian, what's going on? Did you put a fire under your guys? Because it's him and two other guys that are members at his church that have seen this flurry happen in the last few days. And he said, actually, they put a fire under me. And then he spoke to a member of his church. So he's the pastor. In their church, they have small groups. And a member within the small group has been killing it. I mean, just investing time with his wife and his kids on crazy levels, using the Uncommen app as a catalyst for doing those things. And then he had a conversation with this community group leader, and he said, hey, where are you at? You're not doing any of these challenges. And so he confronted his small group leader, and his small group leader had the conversation with his pastor, and they said, yeah, you're right, let's do it. So they started interacting, going back and forth. And this last week, they've been going crazy and accomplishing these challenges. And really what we see it as is just a layer of adding opportunity for bonding and brotherhood, for fellowship, for conversation. And that, I think, was probably one of the best examples of peer-to-peer relationship really growing through these challenges, and that not even have to come from the top down.
Last question for me, then I'm gonna let the guys step in. I know we focused a lot on Uncommen as an app, but you are adamant that it is very much a change in tone in your voice moment when you say Uncommen is the cause, not just an app. Speak to that. What is this cause? What is the end game for Uncommen? What does this cause end up leading to?
That's great. Well, I look at it in multiplicity of ways. You think about the fact that, yes, we are targeting men between the ages of 30 and 45, and one of the tools that we have in the toolbox is an accountability tool called the Uncommen app. But just the same way as I was using that analogy of children earlier, think about all of the players that are engaged or are involved in serving kids, if we're talking about school. You have everyone investing from all different angles, and then if you put the label quote unquote at risk on a child, how many more supports are lifted up in order to truly see that this child is successful. Now, taking this within our current context, we say with an adult man, who are all of the people that can be engaged and involved in making sure that this man is successful in life and not just in his job in the ways that society has stated that this is what success is. And so if we can get his wife celebrating the time that he spends with her, we can get his kid celebrating the time and energies invested in him, then we are amplifying the applause in the right places. And so if we look at men that are engaged in Uncommen as the players on the field, then we would say that we want the stadium packed with people that are standing up and cheering for them to succeed, to keep going. So even within the Christian community, for instance, just this past week, we sent off a guest post with Jody Burkeen's Man Up God's Way, which is an explicitly Christian context, where I spoke to the realities of God the Father and God the Son, and what true fatherhood looks like through that lens. And so we want the Christian community engaging in this cause. And vice versa, he wrote a post to us concerning his relationship with his wife, and his wife is currently undergoing chemotherapy, and him sort of staying and being dedicated through thick and thin. We just did a devotional series for sorry, LaRosa. We'd love to do it with Olive Tree as well, but we did a devotional series with Versions Bible app, doing another devotional series with Go Tandem. I've spoken with Iron Sharpens Iron. I speak at high schools, speaking at all of these community participants to be able to celebrate and to amplify. This is what it means to be uncommon, because the common stats are really, really depressing, and we want to engage so that we can overcome these challenges, and we can do this together. It's not the guy by himself, and it's not just the guy with his peer community. It's us engaging the entire culture around him to help him see and recognize, oh, this is where significance is truly found, versus the ways that the world has really bombarded me and told me this is success.
Guys, questions?
Yeah, I had a question. Dee, good to meet you. My name's Rick, man. I just followed you on Twitter too. Okay, I downloaded the app,
Yes.
and so a question for someone like me who's just discovering it. You download the app. I created an account. What's next? What do you do next with this? Excellent.
So where you were? There he goes. Antoine, you should take over. You know that. You've got the screen share on here. Let me say this too before even saying anything else, Rick. This app just released cross-platform public launch March 17th. So we're just getting started. So some of the things that we would describe as friction today are challenges that we want to overcome. But currently, you would create your account, and you could dive right on in any of these categories that are most appealing to you. Simple challenges, I challenge you. You can lead, you can love, you can dad. Say, for instance, if you want to check out the You Can Dad challenges, you notice that you have different options here. If I click on the first one, I saw that Antoine earlier had on the $3 Daddy Date Challenge under You Can Dad. And this challenge is simple. That challenge is to be able to say, hey, instead of being the Santa Claus dad, or the super excursion dad, the dad who is not present often, who doesn't do much often, but when he does something really, really big. Kids spell love as Time. It doesn't cost them a lot. It just takes time. So here's a simple idea. You'll take your kid to McDonald's and buy him an ice cream cone. You get an ice cream cone. Receipt should come out to about $1.58. Pull out some paper and make paper airplanes right there in McDonald's and toss them. I did this with my oldest daughter, and it was a blast. And when you've completed that challenge, in this particular case, it's a photo-based challenge. So show a little evidence that you did it by taking that photo. And when you do that, all of the people that are on your leaderboard will get notified. And your leaderboard you need to build, and so you share your username with other people and invite them into the app. Have them add you. You add them, and now you are competing with them. You're keeping track. And so every time Antoine or someone else completes a challenge, I get a pop-up notifying me that they completed a challenge, which then prompts me to go in and see where I can get in on the game. We'll go from there.
Yeah, I noticed when
Did I answer your
when I
question?
was,
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Dee.
I noticed when I was signing up, there were just a couple of, you talked about some friction areas. There were just a couple of things. One was the, in order to log in and sign up, I chose to do it through Facebook. Hit the Facebook, and it won't log me in until you hit the little thing at the bottom of the screen, accept the terms of service. And it took me a couple of times to figure out how to do that. And so, if people are signing up for it and going, why can't I get past this login? That's why you got to hit the little button that turns it on, accepting the terms of service. And then the second thing was, if I don't know anybody who's in the app, when it gets to the point where I tapped on, did someone invite you? I tapped on it, and it wouldn't let me add anybody because I didn't know anybody's usernames. I knew Antoine was on it, so I searched by his name, but it said, we can't find that guy. He's not on here. And so that might be an issue you might want to look at, searching by real names, or especially if we're signing into Facebook, maybe someone who has a Facebook account, maybe if you could find them through Facebook, that might be helpful in the future. Yes. But I like the idea. I think it's a really cool way to do that. My first reaction, though, as I look at the challenge with the dad thing is they're all challenges for people with young children. My kids are 17 and 21, and I could adapt them. But my kids, an ice cream date and paper airplanes at McDonald's, that's not really going to fire them up. But going outside and playing a game of basketball with them might. So that might be something you could think about, adding a different kinds of dad dates. I didn't look very much at the other ones, but that was just one that jumped out at me. It was a way to do that. But I love the idea. I think it's pretty cool.
Well, my role is to be the lead learner of Uncommen. So that feedback that you gave me, some of them, the first couple were the things that we've heard lots of feedback on, and we're estimating cost out with our development team on the onboarding process. But then the other one that you just brought up about different types of dad dates, maybe for older children, that's good. I would encourage you to check out Roland Warren's challenges. I would say that those are probably more scalable. Thank you for that.
All right, somebody else got some questions for Dee about this?
I'm busy adding all of you to my leaderboard here.
I keep getting dings on Google Hangouts.
We had this conversation in the background.
All right, guys. That's on my phone because I'm on the iPad.
Can I throw a concept at you guys? And
go for
it. So one idea that I've had has been, especially in removing the friction of creating your teams, is if we implemented the feature where you could create groups. And so someone here would just name the group, create the group, and then you would just send out that group name, much like on social media. Say, hey, join on the Theotek. Just type in Theotek, and the group will come up, and just jump on that. I wonder what would you guys think about that?
You saying that you have that involved in here already, or you're asking
Oh,
whether
no,
that would be?
Yeah, I'm asking.
Oh yeah, I think that would be awesome. Especially, I could see as a pastor, I could see that in a church group. You know, what if I had my men's group at my church with its own group on here that we could keep each other accountable through the app during the week, but then, you know, whenever we have our men's study meeting or Sunday school class or Wednesday night group or in-home group, we could get together and talk about it as well. You know, how was that daddy date that I saw with your 2-year-old daughter? You know, that kind of thing. And you could add the face-to-face along with the over the internet connection.
Yeah. So that's one concept that we're flirting with. Another one that we're flirting with is maybe in conjunction with that is the ability for you to send a custom challenge, so that you as a pastor would be able to create a challenge for your entire group, and they could accept it, and then they would do it. So then, therefore, it could be almost anything. You could say, I challenge you to read the book of James this week, and all of your community members would say yes to it, and there would be a score triangle. And then, of course, all around them, all these other opportunities as well to engage their families.
So how do I connect with people on here? How do I add them? I don't see that right at the top.
I sent you a request. You can respond to mine, and then you'll be added to me.
If you check your leaderboard, check your leaderboard. So the drawer, the left-hand drawer, when you click on leaderboard, that's where you should see those incoming requests. And you can accept them.
I see that. That might be, when you get to this main screen that where you have the iChallenge and stuff like that. I don't know if you had something like add friends or something like that. That might be a way to make that more seamless. Because the leader doesn't really say to me, "I'm adding friends." It says, people I'm already connected with.
Yeah, there is an invite friends tag there. But another thing that we have that we're cost estimating is having also an inbox, so that any sort of notification, whether that comes from an individual or from the app itself, or even invites, that there would just be an inbox that would be the main repository for all of your communication, or at least notifications.
Okay, so if I have connected through my Facebook account, how do I invite people who are on Facebook but not on the app to join the app?
Yeah, this is going to be another level of friction. You're on an Android device, correct?
Well, no, I'm using it on my iPhone just so that I'm the one sharing it to the screen, and there's not a way to do that from an Android.
I got you. So on Android, it will pull up Facebook Messenger, and you can even toggle as many people as you want, and it will tell them to join Uncommen and even give them your username.
Well, how about that? You got an Android first feature that's not yet in iOS. Kudos to you, my friend.
I was going to answer that question from my perspective that you asked LaRosa earlier. One of the things that I've found is that when you have a development team, depending on your dev team, oftentimes you have an in-house design team, and we know that most designers use iOS products. And so what ends up happening is the design from an iOS perspective first, and so then therefore everything kind of follows that from there. And then in our case, with our former dev team, also most of our development team also owned iOS devices because they also wore the designer team hats. So then it comes down to what their personal preference is, not necessarily what the larger community is using. So that changed with Uncommen when I came on and said, hey, I have an iPad, but this is my primary device, and it's Android. Changed the game.
I noticed that for iOS there's only an iPhone app. Is there an iPad app?
There's not currently an iPad app. The philosophy behind that has been we want to get to the camera that they primarily use in their pocket. But you know that on iPad you can always select. It's an iPhone only app at this point.
Right.
Well, I commend you for trying to do something, because my experience as a pastor is that men just, at least in our church, men just don't want to connect spiritually. They don't mind talking about sports or hunting and fishing and fixing up cars and stuff. But the minute you bring in the spiritual element, it's hard to get people interested in that. Except the older men. The older men will. And so that's a challenge I've had as a pastor, is how do I get the men my age and younger, I'm in my 40s, really interested in this, and that's a real challenge. And so maybe something like this that, we're used to these things, we carry them around all the time, and so if I say, hey, let's connect through this, it doesn't have to be face-to-face at first, and maybe develop into that. So.
No, that's exactly right. We really need that if we just create the context. Then we can go from there. Sorry, my headphones just died, so I should probably stop talking.
I noticed something interesting, Dee, on the description for iOS. It says that it's rated 9+ for the following: infrequent, mild, mature, suggestive themes, and frequent, mild profanity or crude humor. That's a little surprising to see.
Yeah, well, it has more to do with, so on the descriptions, it's just a scale. So you have to, when you're creating the app and when you're listing it, you have to put on the scales of things that exist, and then it gives it a rating. It's sort of like PG, PG-13. It has these very generic descriptors. We do, because we are targeting men and we're targeting relationships, we do have conversations about sex. That right there elevates it to a 9.
I got you.
Age of 9, and then Apple puts on it all of its tags that we have no control over.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah. So that's something that you notice the description on the Android. It doesn't have that same language. We don't have control over that.
LaRosa, you got anything?
No questions that I can immediately think of. I've had the app installed for a while. I actually just need to start using it. Antoine's been bugging me for a while to get started. So yeah, I actually need to start diving in and doing some challenges with my kids.
That is a challenge in that you've got, everybody has lots of different social networks these days. If you're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and now people are even WhatsApp and even things like I can't think of the other ones, but they're starting to move a little bit older. My son is constantly on Snapchat. That's like his best friend is Snapchat itself, and then he spends a whole evening. We were sitting there watching the basketball game last night, and I think half the time he was Snapchatting with another friend and kept taking wild pictures of me and stuff, and and so adding another. This is essentially a social network. So adding another one is, that is a hurdle that you'll have to deal with. Do you have any thoughts on that and how you might try to overcome that hurdle of adding another one?
Well, just as I was responding to earlier with Antoine, because we see ourselves as much bigger than the app we're a cause. I mean, I have guys that have told me very clearly, you know what, your app still has bugs, it still has some things that need to be worked out, but it's the ideas that have helped me, and now all of a sudden I see myself investing much more with my family and being purposeful and doing that sort of thing. So if we prompt them that way, then great. Following us on Twitter and Facebook or following our blog, If that causes the engagement, then great. We've had guys that wear our T-shirt and say it's just been a great conversation piece for them in having these more meaningful conversations. The app is just a piece. It's not one size fits all. So if people are a little bit hesitant to using a beta or 1.0 version app, then that's fine with us. But if we can get them engaging in the cause, then that's what we mostly want.
Yeah,
that continue to develop prayerfully.
here's the Facebook page, so people are interested in that. Just find it at facebook.com, Uncommen, COMMEN. It's funny because on iOS, that's the first thing I see when I type UNCOM. The first app that pops up is yours. On Android, when I typed it with your name spelled the way it is, I didn't even see it on the first page. I had to look harder for it. In fact, I had to go to your website to find the link to the Play Store. But so that's unfortunate that Google doesn't understand that you really mean Uncommen.
Mm-hmm.
They try to correct it.
Autocorrect is how the Google algorithm will work is it'll spelling correct for you.
Put quotation marks around it.
Yeah, it's a good right. Yeah, that's what would be necessary there. The more and more people search it, then the more that should rank up.
Okay. So where can we get the T-shirt?
Yeah, great question. So right now our model is, and I'm gonna tell you something that no one else knows yet, but right now is just give a donation of any sort. So if you go to uncommen.org and go to our give page, we'll send you a shirt as a thank you. We have recently partnered with a group called Fodada, and within the next week we will have a store that's through Fodada that is a donation model. Really, it's a fundraiser. So you would purchase the shirt at $20, and $10 covers the printing and shipping, and the other $10 comes to us as an org. It's a great shirt.
Yeah, so you just go to this give link at the top, and over here on the side is where the different ways to give are. I did notice that going to your Twitter link up here returns a 404. Just so you know that.
Broke it. I will fix
it's both here and on this one down
I'll have
here.
that fixed within the next 15 minutes.
Yeah, but all the rest of them seem to do well. And then YouTube. Well, Dee, I appreciate it. Oh, look at that. Antoine's got the shirt. Yeah, show that to us again, brother. There you go. Communism. That's pretty good. All right, guys. Well, it's coming up on our 10 o'clock hour, and so that means I think that we're pretty close to being finished today. And Dee, we really appreciate you joining us and talking to us about Uncommen and something I hadn't even heard of until this week, but I think it could be very useful. And LaRosa, big thanks for joining us again. Of course, we love having you anytime you're available, since you're one of the originals involved with this. And thank you so much for coming and talking to us about Bible from Olive Tree. And guys, anything else, Rick, Antoine, that you want to put on this?
No. Very enlightening conversation today, both about the Android app for Olive Tree as well as the Uncommen organization and the app. Very good stuff.
Antoine?
One announcement from my end. The mobile ministry training course is getting started back again. So if you have any folks that are interested in understanding better applying how to apply mobile technology in ministry, the next course gets started on June 3rd. It's an online course, moves at your own pace. The course is $70 and it only goes for 4 weeks. I'm one of the facilitators towards the back end of that session. and my name is probably all over most of the content. That's because that's how the content developers tended to find some stuff. But it's a really good course if you got folks involved in missions, especially if they're going to Southeast Asia or Mid-Central Africa, North and West Africa these days. It's very much something to get attuned to. You can do the class as a group for that $69, or you can do it one person at a time. It's pretty much your call. But there's a lot of good content in there, and it starts on June 9th. So that's my only good announcement so far.
All right, cool. One more thing I thought I'd bring up here at the end, just before we finish up, is if you want to get a great discipleship book, then let me recommend one to you. Just so happens to be our fine friend LaRosa Johnson, the urban scholar himself, and he recently published a book. LaRosa, tell us about what it is and how you can get it and that good kind of stuff.
Yeah, like here's the book right here. It's called Raw Material. It's basically taking some material that I wrote on one of my websites like years ago. I think it was like 7-8 years ago now that I actually started writing it, and basically a series of Bible studies that I wrote on my website because I was going through a spiritual funk and realized, okay, what steps do I need to take in order to get out of this? And the 4 steps were basically I need to read and study my Bible more. I need to learn how to pray more effectively. I need to figure out what worship really is, because the churches I was going to had a really skewed view of worship, and I didn't feel like I was worshiping the way they were. So I went straight to the Bible and was like, okay, what does the Bible say about worship? And then just taking all of that and really figuring out how to live the Christian life on a daily basis. And that's what the book is really set to do, is taking all the stuff that I've learned and putting it out there so that other people don't have to go through the same journey that I did trying to figure all this out on their own, but giving people the tools that they need to transform their lives to start growing and maturing in this Christian life. So if you want to pick it up, you can get it on Amazon, Google Play, iBooks, or you can get it direct from me on urbanscholar.books.com. And if you buy it direct from my website, you actually get a little bit of a discount. And actually, if you buy a print copy from there too, I'll actually sign it. So there's a few different places that you can get it. Doesn't really matter where. I don't care. But if you want to check it out, do so. And all of you guys that are here on Theotek today, I'll put a link to it in the chat so you guys can get a free download of it.
And I want you to know I am a third of the way through, and I think this is honestly, I think this would be a great tool for anybody in ministry for a new Christian. You know, they get baptized, get saved, you hook them up with a discipleship partner, and then hand them this book and say, here, you know, if they're a reader, this would be a great thing for them to be able to read through at their pace. Give one to the discipleship leader as well. The two of them can go through it together, maybe on a weekly basis, get together and discuss each chapter. I think that would be an excellent tool. As I've gone through a third of the way, first of all, I'll say it's theologically sound. It's, second of all, well written, and third, it covers what you need to know. As it says, it's the raw material for the Christian life, and so I give it my 2 thumbs up. As a pastor, I would be very, very pleased to hand this out to my church members and say, why don't you guys read this? This is a good book, and I plan to, once I'm finished, I plan to post a little link to it for my church members to recommend it to them. So.
And when you do that, Kevin, let me know, and I'll actually give you a discount code.
Okay, all right, we'll do it. Well, thanks, guys. It's been fun, and as I always say at the end of this, we record live on Friday mornings at 9 o'clock. If you want to find out how to do that, go to google.com/+Kevin Purcell, and you can follow me, and that's the easiest way because we do it through my Google account and my YouTube site. Also, you can find all of our links at theotek.com. That goes to a page on my website, kevinpurcell.org, where you can learn how to subscribe. Maybe you prefer audio. We are on iTunes and Stitcher, and as a result of that, every major podcasting app that you can get. My favorite is Pocket Casts on Android and iOS, You can find us in there if you just search for Theotek inside that app. Then you'll find us. And we don't care how you listen or how you watch. We hope that you'll just do so and interact with us. Let us know what you think. We use Theotek News as our Twitter handle, so if you want to tweet at us, that's a good way to get a hold of us. And I'm just excited about the fact that we've had this great couple of guests on today, and we're thankful that all of you were taking part and watching and listening. So thanks again. God bless.